Okay, thank you.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming. I'd like to introduce you to our guest Alejandro Garza.
Thank you, Samuel, and thank you for the invitation, and thank you, the student activities, for putting this together. And I do enjoy this topic a lot, especially because I find this memories very therapeutic because it was one of the best things I have done in my life. And I'm gonna say it from the beginning. I'm not gonna try to sound cheesy or anything, but I really mean this because this has been one of the greatest experiences of my life. And and it's also very helpful because I'm taking one law class for my PhD, and this has helped me to calm down by looking at the photos and thinking about the great memories. So I'm going to talk is about Camino de Santiago, and this Camino de Santiago takes place in Spain, but it doesn't only involve Spain, the country, but it also involves some other countries around Spain. So Santiago, if you picture the map of Spain, it will be in the northwest of the country, in Galicia area, and it is one of the, in my opinion, one of the more beautiful scenic places in Spain, and because it has a lot of hills and it's green and the food is amazing as well. So there's a lot to see in this area, but people don't know too much about this area because when people go to Spain, they mainly go to Madrid or Barcelona, which are wonderful cities too. But Galicia is a forgotten area per se, but it offers way too many cultural and religious activities, just like this one, Camino de Santiago. So you can see in the first slide, I am very dark, but it's just a design of this presentation. And this is a sign that it says 790 kilometers to Santiago de Compostela. But this is not my first day of this pilgrimage. It was my second day. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with kilometers or the meter system. Pretty much every country in the world uses the metric system. So 8 kilometers in miles, it would be the equivalent to approximately 500 miles. And I did walking the whole time. I never took a bus. I never took the train. I never took a taxi. I didn't bicycle because some people do that. But before I start talking about what it was El Camino for me, I have to tell you how I found out about this activity or this journey. When I used to live in Canada about 12 years ago, and I was at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, and I was telling one of my colleagues or one of my friends about a book that I was reading. And this book is written by Paulo Coelho. He's a Brazilian author, and this book is called The Pilgrimage. So I was enjoying it, but I didn't know or I didn't realize that the Camino de Santiago was an actual thing, because if I remember correctly about this book, is Pablo Coelho and his journey during this pilgrimage, but he was trying to do this to prove something to a group of people. And and I was enjoying this reading, and I told one of my friends, I think you should read this book because you might like it. And then she asked me what's the name of the book, and I said The Pilgrimage. And then we were walking at the university, and then she said, well, I did my master's thesis on this book because I also did El Camino de Santiago. And I obviously stopped too. I'm like, do you mean that Camino de Santiago is a real thing? It's not a fiction, or it's not just for Coelho's journey? And he said, no. And I think you should do that. I'm sure you're gonna like it. And then she was giving me information, and I asked her, so how was it? And she told me this: it's one of those experiences that you have to do it, but it's not gonna make sense what I'm telling you until you do it, because your experience might be different than mine. So I remember that exactly. So that's why I'm asking this question. Have you ever been in a situation like this when somebody tells you you have to do this or you have to go to this place and you think to yourself, yes, I have to do it. So I definitely put this in my to-do list, and I needed to find the right moment to do it because this journey takes a long time and it takes money, and you have to prepare for this. It's not like you can just buy the ticket and go. Obviously, you have to fly to Europe, and in my case, I flew to France because it was a lot cheaper than flying to Spain. And then I took the train to a small town that is called Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, which is a small little town in the mountains in the French Pyrenees, and that's where I started El Camino. And that's why this journey, this Camino, the Camino means the way. This one means no, this is the name of this Camino is Camino Francés, the French Camino, because this one you start in France. But there are several other Caminos, but this is the most popular and now the most commercial. So what did I do to do this? Well, I needed time because it takes more than a month to do this journey, and obviously you need money, and you have to be not in the best shape, but you have to be in shape to walk either 20 to 30 kilometers a day carrying your backpack. There are a few tricks that I was learning along the way that it helps you walk. You can actually send your backpack through the mail and then pick it up at the next town where you go to stop. That is in case if you have a fixed itinerary. And so I wanted to have a better idea about this Camino. There's one movie that is called The Way, and I watched them before going, but the experience of this person, this is an American film, the experience of this person doing The Way, it was completely different experience than mine because yes, I was a pilgrim, but I was also doing this for a photo project for TCC for my sabbatical photo project, and I took a year off from work because I was working on my photo project for the TCC for my sabbatical project, and so this was the perfect way for me to start my photo project. So I was documenting, I was talking to a lot of people, and I was taking hundreds of photos because the scenery is amazing, and the people that you encounter, they're very amazing individuals. So this is a little bit about the Camino, and you can see on the map on the left corner that you see the dots, the names of the towns that usually you stop. You see a yellow arrow, which at the end I will give you information about that, and a shell with a cross. And at the end I will give you information why we have to have a shell when you do El Camino. And I know one or two of some of you guys know a lot about this because you either have done it or you have watched movies or read about this. So at any point, if you feel like you want to ask me a question, just please do so. Unmute your mic and ask the question to make this interactive, more interactive. Now, this is, I'm not going to be showing you a lot of photos of me. I don't want to bore you guys, but I'm showing you this photo because for some reason I cannot find my passport. But in order for you guys to do El Camino, there are several ways to do it, but you have to have a passport that you get in this office. I got this one in France. And by having this passport, this allows you to stay in the albergues. What are the albergues? Is the place where you sleep, and sometimes you can go to private albergues, which they are about maybe from 30 euros to 100, depending on the comfort. Or you can stay in the albergues from the city municipality, and they could be as cheap as $5. But you have to have this passport with you, and they stamp your passport, every time you stayed in the albergue. You can also get stamped at the churches that you visit, but you need to keep this if you wanted your certificate at the end, which I will be talking about the certificate. So the first day I did find this paper. It's a little bit damaged, but I mean, it makes sense. He was traveling with me for a long time, and it shows you the topography of each day when you go through the mountains or when you go through a flat area. And each day you could be about 25 kilometers average. You can carry your bag. I was carrying my backpack and I was also carrying my camera because I was documenting this. Now, uh, when I first the first day that I did, it was the hardest day for me because the distance was very short, but you go up the Pyrenees and then you come down the Pyrenees, and it didn't matter how much I thought I knew about El Camino. I was a little bit confused because I was tired from carrying my backpack and my camera, but at the same time I was having fun because I was talking to a lot of people and taking photos. But I remember arriving at one private albergue, and then they told me, yeah, it's 75 euros a night. And here I am thinking, I'm not going to be able to spend 75 euros each day. But I was too tired that I didn't realize that there were albergues for only 5 euros. So I walked out of this private albergue or hotel, and then I noticed one pilgrim that I met on the journey. And then she told me, are you going to the albergue? And I said, well, I just asked, and this one is 75. And then she was like, no, the other one is only 5 euros, which is about $6 a night. So I was actually saving money when I was doing this once I was there because accommodation was very cheap. And of course, you shared the room with a lot of pilgrims. So it's not being a luxurious place. It's just a place for you to rest, and you have the regulations. There's a curfew. They turn off the lights. They don't let you leave before 6 a.m. in some places, so you don't disturb the people who are sleeping. You just have to follow the regulations. And so that's when I started learning a little bit more about this journey. And I can talk to you, and oh, my apologies. Once I transferred the PowerPoint into here, the words moved, but I can just tell you. So I can tell you about every single one of the amazing people that I met and interesting people that I met. That's gonna take me forever. So I just decided to talk to you about four people. In this case, in one is a group of people, of pilgrims, because they taught me so much. Okay, Adi, do you have a question? Adi, I'm sorry. You can unmute your mic if you have a question. You feel free to ask the question at any time. Okay, no question. Okay, so I'm just gonna give you these examples about a few people that I met. That's how amazing these people are, and they're completely, in my opinion, out of the ordinary place that you usually visit or you usually go. So the first person that I'm going to talk to you is about the French grandma. And it was a little bit hard for me to communicate with her because my French is not that great. I was carrying a conversation, but sometimes it was difficult for me. So she was 80 something years old, and this was not her first time doing El Camino, and she was not doing El Camino by herself. She was doing this El Camino with her nephew. No, no, sorry, her grandson. And the grandson will take off because he will walk a lot faster, and then they will regroup in another town or in another place. But she was an amazing and very interesting person because she was in great shape and she was walking faster than me. Sometimes I have to keep up with her, and it was too hard for me to keep up with her. That's how fast she walked. So 80 something years old doing El Camino with her grandkid, and having the time of her life, and it was not the first time doing El Camino. The second picture, we call them the cool kids because you start meeting the pilgrims, you start seeing them pretty much every day, and then people start making groups. So in my case, I didn't want to be part of one group because I wanted to be able to meet a lot of people and learn from everybody rather than sticking with one group. But the cool kids was a group of pilgrims that they met in the first 2 or 3 days, and they stuck together, and they were all from different countries. There was one girl from the United States, another girl from Australia, one guy, the leader, which I we thought he was the leader. It was a guy from Brazil, and another guy from Mexico, and another guy from Italy. So they were from all different countries. It's just like a movie scene for these kids, and and they became a community to the point that they did not want to accept anybody into their group, because when you're traveling or walking with a group, you have to make sure that you keep your pace. And if somebody is staying behind, you don't want to wait for that person. So they walk very fast. I usually see them when they will pass me because I was one of the first ones to get up. And then I will see them at the next town where we spend the night in the albergue. And I took this photo in halfway of the El Camino, and you can see in the back one of the most beautiful churches in Spain. So well, I got to hang out with them, but I didn't walk with them all the time because I was not part of the cool kids. But that's because I want to meet other people. Now, the third photo that I'm showing you, she was a very interesting woman. She hardly talked to anybody, and I feel privileged that I was able to talk to her, and she allowed me to take her photo. She was Spanish. I don't know her name, but people started calling her Yoda. Yeah, the Star Wars character. I mean, it's a derogatory term for her because she was walking with a cane and she was always very serious. But of course, I don't say this to offend her, but that's how people start calling names to each other during a campaign. Of course, she didn't know this, but one time I was able to talk to her, and I asked her why she was doing El Camino, and she told me, I have done this 3 times, and the first time I did it, but I hated every single minute of it. So I decided to do it the second time to change my mind about El Camino. And she loved the second experience too much that she decided to do it a third time to give to say thanks to El Camino because the second time changed her life. So she was doing this 800 kilometers for the third time just to say thank you to El Camino because she was telling me when I walk, I meditate and I look at the surroundings, and that's why I was able to overcome all different things. So to the point that she's doing it for the third time. She always talked very metaphorically, and she told me, life, El Camino is just like life. Sometimes there are some aspects that are very hard and they're very difficult for you to overcome, but the only way to overcome this is by keep on walking. So that's how life is. So I was having very deep conversations with her to the point that some other ones, oh, you talk to Yoda. And I was like, well, please don't call her like that. But they were surprised that I was actually talking to her at some points. And the picture number 4, the last one, is this kid. He, I didn't talk to him too much. I only saw him like 3 days, and this was at the end of my journey. And I know he was from Belgium. He was 19 years old, and I asked him, "Why did you decide to do El Camino? Why?" And he, from Belgium, he said, I just wanted to do something different because I was tired of all my friends being um, acting like a slaves to their cell phones. So one day I just heard about El Camino and I decided to walk from Belgium. So he was not only walking across Spain, but he went across France and then Spain to make it to El Camino, and he was walking back to Belgium, and he was only 19 years old. Now, he's not the only one that I met that was traveling across Europe to make it to Santiago de Compostela. I met a Portuguese person who was retired, and he was walking from Rome to Santiago, and I met a couple from Germany who were walking from Germany to Santiago. So I can keep on giving you a lot of stories about amazing individuals that I met, but otherwise it's going to take me the whole day, so I'm going to stop right here. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. If not, I just go ahead and continue. Any questions, anybody? No? Okay, I just go ahead and continue. So to me, El Camino was a learning experience in many different ways, just like the Spanish lady who was telling me El Camino is just like life. I was getting as well into these philosophical sections of El Camino, and I learned a lot of it. So I'm just gonna give you 3 points that I learned from this and also learned from the individuals. On the first photo, I have surround yourself with good people. There were a few groups of people. Some of them, they were doing El Camino just for fun. Obviously, you want to have fun, but they were also drinking and they were getting in trouble because one of them was kicked out from an he came back drunk. So obviously, when you do something like this, you don't want to hang out with people like that. I was very lucky that I was also hanging out with a group of pilgrims from South Korea. And there was one time that I couldn't walk anymore because I was extremely tired and it was too hot and my bags were so heavy. And I was telling people, I'm just gonna go ahead and stay in this town. It was very sad town. There was nobody there, but I couldn't keep up anymore. And then the Korean girl that you see right next to me in the photo, she told me, let's just go and I help you carry one bag. So she helped me carry one bag, and we only have 2 or 3 more kilometers to go. They were probably the longest kilometers of my life. So we finally made it to the next town where everybody was staying, and then I was able to see my new friends that I made in El Camino. So it was great getting into this town. But this was because these good people helped me, motivated me, pushed me, cheered me up, and the girl carried one of my bags. I remember arriving into the albergue, and I don't really drink because I get too sleepy when I drink. So one American guy, it was too hot that he just gave me a cold beer, and I didn't think I drank it. That was not good on me. I passed out in the middle with everybody, and I remember one Brazilian girl put my feet up on a chair, and I woke up about an hour later because I was extremely tired. But the moral of the story is that it's always good, in my opinion, to hang out with the right people, with the good people, the people who can help you keep on going in life. So my second photo is we were caught in a heavy storm. It was raining a lot. And so we looked for refuge, and we were under this little narrow bridge. And you can see on the bottom a lot of water. The water was running really fast. So in this case, I think about the Spanish lady and about life. El Camino is just life. Sometimes it's hard, but you just have to keep on going. But in this case, we looked for refuge, but we did not give up. We were all wet, but we let the storm pass by, and then we continued walking. And I was not tired like the other day when it was extremely hot. I was just wet, but I was able to keep on going. So there's another moral of the story. And another person that I also met in El Camino, Japan, His name is Kaz, which I actually went to visit him and his wife now, he's married, and in Japan. He told me that he did El Camino because he got a very good job in Japan. And as you might know, in Japan, once you get a full-time job, you keep that job and you don't quit until you retire, because that's the way it was in his family and in his town. And it is culturally known that once you stay in one job, you just keep it for your whole life. But he realized that he was not happy with his job. So he quit against his dad's wishes. And then he heard about El Camino. So he wanted a change. And he told me I needed a break from dogma. And he decided to do El Camino. So after El Camino, since I was traveling for almost a year and a half, I went through Tokyo and I got to see him and his wife. And he was telling me, I'm so glad I took this break from dogma and realized that I didn't want to do this because it was not what it was making me happy. Now he has his own business, and he is in the tourism industry with foreigners that come into Japan because he speaks three languages. So, so he's able to reach out to people from other countries. So what is the moral of this case? It is good to take a break from dogma or completely stay away from dogma, because you have to follow what it really makes you happy rather than making other people happy. But you're miserable. It's better for you to be happy, and then you create happiness around you. So there's only three examples that I can share with you about what I have learned. And obviously El Camino had a lot more for me, because these people, just like Cass, that I met him in Spain, but I got to see him in Japan. I also met people from Colombia, and I got to see them in Colombia, also in Mexico, people from Mexico, and also in Argentina. So it is a continuously learning experience. So I have two more slides to share. When you do El Camino, you hear Buen Camino, which means have a good camino, the way. And at the end of the journey, you go through this short, small interview. You have to show your passport so they can prove that you have walked or you have stayed in every single town. And once you do that certificate, they ask you why you do it. Is it for religious purposes or for cultural purposes? I didn't do this one for religious purposes because I'm not religious. I did this because of cultural purposes. And then they give you a certificate that it comes in, and now my certificate is framed. I don't even have my master's degree is framed, but I do have this. And well, actually I have two, because I did two caminos. And people were telling me, when you arrive in Santiago de Compostela and when you see the cathedral, oh, you're gonna get emotional. That was not my case. I didn't cry. I was happy, and I was happy to see all my friends around, but I didn't cry, and I was not emotional. But when I received my certificate, something happened to me that I cannot describe, and I was getting very emotional in front of everybody in that office. I just couldn't control it. And again, I'm not afraid to show my feelings or cry in public, because it's a natural thing to do. But I just couldn't understand. Once I saw that paper with my name in Latin, I was like, whoa, this is really cool. So, so why do people do it? Again, they do it because of religious purposes or for cultural reasons. And it has a different meaning for everybody. So this obviously had an impact in my life, that I went back to Europe to do another Camino, which is the Portuguese Camino. And I started in Portugal, obviously. And it was an amazing experience as well, because that person that I met, who was walking from Italy all the way to Spain and then down to the church in Fatima, Portugal, the retired old man, I got to see him, and he showed me the way, and he led me. He said bye to start my new Camino, Camino Portugués. And this Camino is less commercial, and fewer people do this. And I was finding it very different. So And by the way, there were times that I didn't have internet, which is the best thing to get disconnected from society. I found that a really good break. Just not having to worry about emails about what somebody's so cool on Instagram or on Facebook. I was away from that, and it was so good. So the only few times that I was able to get connected with the internet during this Camino was with my pilgrim friend who walked from Italy to Portugal. And I said, this Camino is very different. I'm not enjoying it as much as Camino Frances because I was meeting a lot more people. And then he told me, do not compare it because if you compare it, that's gonna take you away from the essence of El Camino and you're not gonna enjoy it. So enjoy it as it is and take advantage of that moment because there were times that I was walking completely by myself and it helped me a lot. Pretty much he told me just to enjoy the present and forget about how wonderful the other one was. And I started enjoying it even more. I started enjoying my solitude in this great trails. It was rainy, but I was still enjoying the rain because it smells so good. I was enjoying it to the point that then I got to the point I didn't want to hang out with anybody. There was one guy from Brazil who was been given telling me he was being racist about a group of people in Brazil because he was European descent, and I didn't like it. I said, you know what, I want to continue walking on my own. Please just either you go or just stay here. So before I probably didn't, I wouldn't do that, but there I was like, I'd rather enjoy the El Camino as it is, enjoy the nature, enjoy my solitude. And again, it was a wonderful experience. So what is next? Now on more Caminos. There's another one that goes along the coast in the northern region of Spain. There is, which is called Camino de la Costa. There's another Camino, Camino Primitivo, which I have met people who have done it, but it's a lot more rough because the trails you go through very small trails through the mountains, and there's another Camino that I want to do. People have recommended me not to do it, but I want to do Camino de la Plata, which starts from Sevilla. And people tell me that it's very boring. But I always give that advice from this pilgrim that you should not compare them. Everything is beautiful in its own way. How long did it take you to complete? Okay, so I did it in 33 days. I was planning to do it in 34 days, but the French Camino, I did it in 33 days because there was one day that I walked a lot more because I got confused and I thought I was meeting friends that I met in one town, but I got confused and I kept on walking. And so that's why I did it in 33 days. And the other Camino, Portuguese, I did it in 17 days. Yes. You're welcome, Herman. So what is next again is I want to I want to do more. On your experience, do you think someone should do this alone? Okay, now I did this on my own, and it was a great experience because I did whenever I wanted to stop and just eat because I love to eat, I was stopping and eating and I didn't want anybody to rush me. Or just like the cool kids, they were in a group and they felt protected and they were having great conversations. But again, I didn't want to be stuck only with one group when I was being rushed. So it depends on you. There were times that I was having somebody to walk with for about 5 kilometers, and that person either would tell me, "Oh, I need to stop now," or there were times that I would meet somebody, and we were strangers, but it is El Camino, and they were needed to talk to somebody about something that happened to them, and they would share their secrets with me. This happened to me about 5 times, and sometimes I'm like, whoa, did I just hear that? Wow. And there were times I'm like, okay, I just wanted to share that. Now I want to walk on my own. So it's up to you. I did it on my own and it was the best experience. But you really want to travel with somebody, you either have to know that person really well, or if you really get to know somebody, you should do it with this. You should do this because you get to see the real face of that person. And what was your thoughts on the views as you travel? I have so many different thoughts, but I was always thankful, always, that I was doing it because of nature, the people that I was meeting. And there were times when I was meditating, like I said before, like the Spanish lady, and my thoughts would take me to my childhood. And and it was like going back in time. There was an old person, very old person who helped me one time, and then I thought about my grandfather. I used to take him to the park because he would live like 3 houses down from our house, and my brother and I would take him to the park on Sundays. So it's just like there were so many different thoughts that is like a constant meditational way. Very cool trip. Seems it will be a great. It is that. It is a great experience to reset, just like this Japanese person. And he was not the only one who was resetting. I met people who broke up with the wife or girlfriend, boyfriend, and didn't know what to do. So they did a Camino and they felt a lot better. And thank you, Jocelyn. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I think, Jesus, you have Humberto or Jesus have a question. Anyone,
Yes,
please.
I had
Okay.
I had a question. You sort of answered it already, Alejandro. Well, the first one was how many countries have you visited? And I ask you this because you know the number keeps growing, so I wanted to know
Yeah.
what is the latest number. And then you mentioned a little bit this. I've heard in Mexico, for example, people do sort of like mandas, where
Yes.
it's a religious purpose.
Yes.
They have an ill family member, and they promise to to their faith that if that person is healed, they are going to do some type of like a pilgrimage, un camino, right? And there are other people that I've met that do it after a divorce or a
Yes.
death, or
Oh
they do
yes.
it for a dead relative, that
Yes.
wanted to do this camino, never did it. Do you have any can you share of any experiences that touch your heart? Maybe a person that shared with you that
Yeah.
why they did it, the
Yeah.
camino.
Okay. So let me try to respond to all of them. I have been in 118 countries so far. My goal is to visit every country. And during the lockdown, actually El Camino helped me because I was making videos about El Camino. They're posted on YouTube, and I don't do this as a professional, like a blogger. I just do it as a therapeutic because I couldn't travel. So El Camino definitely helped me. Also, I met people who after they got divorced, they were doing a Camino for a new start. I have heard about the mandas in Mexico, but they're a lot different because I wouldn't really do something like this in Mexico because if you walk, you have to walk with a lot of people, otherwise it could be dangerous. Here is safe. You hardly ever hear about people being robbed. And and I hope I answered to all your questions. And yeah, did I answer all your questions, Jesus?
Do you have any like stories to share about, maybe did you meet a person in
Okay, yeah,
particular?
well, one story that I have that I was actually very emotional was the story about the old person who was helping me because he gave me a cane to walk, and he reminded me of my grandfather. And unexpectedly, after I left that town, I just started crying because I was thinking about my grandfather, and I was having memories when I was 5, 6 years old that I haven't thought about since probably since then. So is I cannot explain it. It just happened, and but I was thinking at least I have good memories with my grandfather. And until he died, he died when he was 94 years old. My family was there even to take him to the park. So that was something that I just could not explain how emotional I got after meeting this old man who helped me. And that was one personal experience. And I have another question here. Okay, Champ, with the book, I'm sorry, the albergues, they run the public ones from €5, which is about $6. But of course, sometimes you could be sharing the room with 300 people. So don't expect anything fancy. And now, since it is more commercial, the French way, they have private hotels, and you pay up to 80 euros a night, like $100. So, and obviously, Jen, the language that helped me the most was Spanish, because a lot of people are older in this community and they don't like to speak English, or they feel so proud of Spain because they're patriotic and they don't want to talk to English. So I have to translate a lot to people who didn't speak Spanish. So it's always good to know Spanish, but that's the beauty of knowing languages. I was able to connect with these people in my own language and getting to know them because I didn't have this barrier. So the more languages you know is great. Obviously in Portugal, I was speaking to people and I know a little bit of Portuguese, but Spanish helped me. So thanks to the language, it helped me to connect with people. And I was spending about maybe 25 euros a day with accommodation. So if you think about it, I was actually saving money during this trip because I was eating a lot, but you don't eat in fancy places. You just eat in small little stores or restaurants, and I was buying a lot the tortilla española, which is not a Mexican tortilla. Tortilla española is made out of eggs and potatoes, and it's very big. So I was paying like 2 or 3 euros for that, and orange juice 2 euros, and then I was eating olives and tapas. So about 25, no more than 30 euros for sure. Was there an option to take sleeping bag and sleeping? Oh yes, there are several options. There are campsites, and you can bring your sleeping bag. I didn't on Camino, but on the Portuguese one, and and there's some even campsites they offer yoga classes. So it's getting very trendy as well. That's why it's commercial. But there were a few campsites where you can camp out, and I met this Mexican guy who brought his tent. So he was actually pitching out his tent and camping out in the woods, and then he will put it together, and then he will keep on going. So that's another way to do it. Yes, and you're welcome, Irma. And Umberto, I don't think I got to read your question. I don't think you posted it, but if you're still there, please feel free to talk about this or ask a question because I know you did El Camino. And I
Yes,
actually talked to you before I did this.
I remember. And yeah, thank you for doing this. And it's brought back a lot of great memories. Like you said, it's therapeutic. I was curious, what was your favorite town on the Camino Frances?
Oh, there were so many. There was one town that you don't stop to stay, but it was close to the Pyrenees, and I forget because there was a little canal next to the houses, and I just remember sitting down and taking photos of the little canal, and the architecture of the houses was amazing, and I just loved that old architecture. It's like the colonial towns of Mexico, but in Spain. So, and I think the town with the big church, Burgos, I'm trying to think if that's the name of the town because the church is just amazing. And even if you're not religious, but when you go to a church like this, it has an impact on you because there's so much peace. And and I just remember sitting down and listening to the mass, and I like that town a lot because of the mass in the church. And yeah, and of course Santiago, because once you stop the journey, it just rejoice. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for doing
Yeah.
this. This is awesome.
No, thank you, Humberto,
Professor Garza,
and yes, yes, yes,
do you plan to do this Camino a third time?
yes. Of course, I want to do the Camino de la Plata that starts from the southern Spain, from Seville. And I just read one comment that I wouldn't like the commercial aspect, and that's why I want to do this Camino because it's not that commercial. And I was trying to stay away from that commercial. I mean, I have to admit that I did buy stickers and a T-shirt on this place that is more commercial during the French one. But right now is the time to go and do it. Well, not now. I think they're going to close now. But now, since people are not traveling, it's less commercial. But I want to do Camino de la Plata because not too many people know about it and it's less commercial. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you. And okay, now Nancy, that you ask about the sign, I have to tell you this, what the meaning of this is. So now, what is the meaning behind? And this is not according to me. This is according to what I heard from people that I was learning what these signs represent. So they built the cathedral of Santiago de Compostela in Santiago because they believed they found the remains of the apostle of Santiago in that place. So that's their belief. And so their belief. And then they decided to build the cathedral. And they have the remains in the cathedral. So you can actually see them. And Alicia, you have a question? Please go ahead and ask.
Did you kiss the relic of Santiago?
I didn't. I just touched it. But some of my friends did it. I don't know. This is before COVID, but I was just seeing everybody kissing it, so that's why I did. I'll be honest, I didn't want to do it. But I did touch the place that is guarded, and I did touch it, but I didn't kiss because a lot of people were kissing it. So, but I did. And actually I do have a photo with it, and it was so nice being there at that moment. And like I said before, even if you're not religious, it was still nice. And also, now, why do you have a shell? As you can see on this represents a shell. They said that the apostle was covered with shells when he was found. So that's why this is the logo, and it's always in the signage. And why do they have a yellow arrow? Because a priest was showing the way to the pilgrims. And keep in mind that they've been doing this for centuries. So the bridges that you walk on, these are the bridges that have been built during the medieval times. And you can see the flags. That's why I would like to do it on my own too, because I was reading the history behind the bridges or the hospitals or the churches. So that's why if you ask me, do you do it with somebody, you really have to know the person. Or like in my case, I like to do it on my own because I was reading the historical aspects. So from what I read, this yellow arrow was created by a priest who was in this. Now, I did get lost one time. One time I left around 5 and it was really dark. I didn't get to see the arrow, and I was not the only one who got lost. But other than that, you see the shell, and they also give you a shell to put on your backpack, and you see the signage, you see the line frequently, as long as you stick in the trail. But I did get lost one time. So, and yeah, something. So the pilgrims have walked from all over Europe for centuries because of religious purposes, until this was discovered by authors, and now people do it. Now people can ride bicycles, so you don't have to take your bike if you come from another country. You can rent your bicycle in France and return it in Santiago, and you just pay an extra fee for that. And do you see any wildlife? You see a little bit, but Carmen, one time, for the first time in my life, I heard a cuckoo bird, and I didn't want to keep on walking because you're walking through the woods, and then you suddenly hear cuckoo, cuckoo, and I was like, stop, and everybody stopped, and we didn't move because you keep on hearing it. So I was like, oh, this is not only that it's in the cartoons, it's in real life. So I didn't get to see that bird, but just listening to the cuckoo sound was just a great experience, to the point that I stopped and I didn't want to walk. And other than that, you see a lot of farms, and you see horses, beautiful horses, you see cows, you see dogs, and they might not be considered wildlife, but I was still enjoying it, and I took photos of them too. Oh, you're very welcome, Nancy, and I'm glad you guys enjoyed the talk, and I'm hoping everybody could have an experience like this, because it could be a life learning experience. You're welcome, Carmen. You're welcome, Mark. Does anybody have any other questions? And if not, I just wanna say Buen Camino. This is what you tell people when you find or you interact with during El Camino, or you say bye, or you say hola, Buen Camino. And if you can see, that's me behind Buen Camino. And the church, the cathedral was being remodeled. I didn't get to see it finished the 2 times that I've been there. I'm hoping I see it finished on my third Camino. You would not get lost in the trails there as long as you follow the arrows. The time that I got lost, that was because I left at 5 in the morning and it was too dark. But otherwise, you do not get lost. Yeah, you're welcome, Lucretia. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Roxana. Thank you, everybody. If you ever have any questions, feel free to ask or email me. You're welcome, Jesus. I am posting videos on YouTube. I only have posted 2, and that YouTube channel is Viajando con Alejandro, in case if you want to watch it. But again, I'm not a professional blogger, so it's not going to be the best video, but you can watch videos on YouTube, documentaries on this. Gracias, Humberto. Buen camino. Thank you again. That's it for now. Buen camino to everybody. Thank you, April. Thank you, Sima. Thank you again.
Alejandro, on behalf of everybody in student activities, and it looks like everybody in the chat, thank you very much for presenting this for us today. It was so very interesting.
Oh, thank you again for giving me the opportunity, because it is very therapeutic to talk about it, and I'm glad you guys enjoyed it.